It is once again the season of giving. With 40-year high inflation, this year is going to be difficult for families throughout Connecticut, and is more urgent than ever that we think of our neighbors and what we can do to help communities that we live in. For 60 years, the United Way of Southeastern Connecticut has been there to help foster this spirit and has raised millions of dollars in support of Connecticut residents in a multitude of ways. Dina Sears-Graves, President and CEO of the United Way of Southeastern Connecticut, joins us this week for a special holiday episode of the Municipal Voice, discussing how you can help this year and how you can get help if you need it. We'd like to thank our sponsors at Gateway Community College and Housatonic Community College. The Municipal Voice is a Connecticut Conference of Municipalities podcast in collaboration with WNHH LP 103.5 FM. I'm your host, Matt Ford. As always, be sure to give us a like and let us know what you're thinking in the comments. CCM's Municipal Voice podcast continues to present a key forum on important state and local issues. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the consensus views of CCM or member municipal leaders. Dina, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
You did some work this year around housing equity in partnership with the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut, Connecticut College, and Eastern Connecticut State University. Why is housing equity important?
Yeah, well, we just began this adventure for us, this partnership. So we're really excited about it. But equitable access to housing that is safe, affordable, and connected to resources is a human right and critical infrastructure for a thriving region. So it's really, really important. And, one of the things that, we talk about the ALICE report, which is asset limited, income constrained, employed. And really what it does is it determines a number of what somebody needs to make just to meet basic needs. And so when you look at the state of Connecticut, that number is very significant. It's 38% of our residents cannot afford basic needs. And then you couple that with the housing and the cost burden people have to endure for housing. That's over 50% of all renters are cost burdened. And so, that's really something, that it's important. So really we have to do something, as more pressures keep coming onto our community and to our family, our friends, our neighbors, now is that we really have to do something.
So this new center begins work in 2023. What do you have on plate to get it started?
Right. So right now we're currently actively seeking a coordinator for the job to help with all the work. But in the meantime, as we're doing that, the partners are meeting, really looking at infrastructure, and we're really, asking the community to join us in this endeavor. So laying the groundwork, bringing people to the table, because this is an issue that just the nonprofits can solve. This is something that we have to work together. It's for cross sectors to work together. And so we've got to start bringing people together. And so while we're doing that, again, we're looking to hire somebody, and we're also bringing donors to the table. And, we have a very philanthropic community. And so bringing our donors to the table to help support the initiative as well.
Excellent. So it sounds like a good start. And how do we get to a place with housing equity?
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of work, not going to be shy about that. But really what the first thing we really need to do is harness the collective power of multiple perspectives. So I was talking about bringing together the cross sectors, but we need difference in expertise and difference in people with different capacities and knowledge. And we need community members. We need voices at the table. There's one thing about having, knowledge, professional knowledge, but we also need real lived experience knowledge as well to help guide this process. So bringing all these folks together. We need to facilitate strategic alignment and deployment of every available resource to ensure equitable access to housing, that there's housing opportunity and that they're available. And so then we also have a big piece of this is building public will for affordable housing. And so we have to really educate people that this is important, and this is what will help make us have a thriving region in our thriving state, and how important it is. And again, with having affordable housing, there's so much research that's really behind a lot of this work, saying that it impacts our children, our youth, and even adults. And so again, we have to do something. It's not just about having housing, but there's so many other things that it impacts.
Yeah, you talked about kind of specific outlooks and expertise, and obviously at CCM, we are representing the town and city governments of Connecticut. So what can our members, the towns and cities, do to help?
Well, I think the first thing is really showing true, real commitment to having and getting affordable housing. there's the Connecticut state statute, the 8-30G, which was enacted in 1989, that actually sets a goal that 10% of each municipality's housing stock qualify as affordable housing. And so, there's one thing of actually putting that in your plan, but actually following through on that is really, really important. So, really having towns look at that and following through. And then we also have to really look at our zoning provisions in each of our towns and municipalities and what that looks like. Just some examples is there zoning that doesn't allow for multifamily housing? Or, is there zoning that says you can't have an in-law apartment, things like that. And again, we have to look at the, some of the past practice with zoning to make it be where we need it to be today. So those are just some.
Yeah, a lot of work to be done on housing equity, but it's worthwhile work, definitely.
Absolutely.
Could you tell us a little bit about the United Way of Southeastern Connecticut and how kind of your local United Way is connected to others in Connecticut and the national?
Sure. So United Way is an organization that addresses the community's most pressing needs and issues. And so we work to find strategic solutions by pulling together the resources necessary to do that. So what does that look like? So we mobilize the community to take action, and that's through donations, volunteering, becoming advocates, which is really important. We support a network of nonprofit organizations. And so that's, again, it's really critical that we support our nonprofits that are really dealing with people individually and making sure they have the direct support that they need, and that people get a hand, to help them up in their times of need. And we also work to address root causes. And so this is what we're actually working on: systemic changes and looking at things to prevent or eliminating something from happening in the first place. And so we have a couple of initiatives that we are looking at, long-term things. And so we do that by convening and facilitating. Again, the key to all this work is cross-sector. So very similar to the housing equity work that we're doing. This is the same. It's the same principle for all our other initiatives that we're looking at systemic change. You need to bring more than just the nonprofits to the table. You need to bring your community. You need business, government, schools, every entity. We all have to be in it to solve it. And so we do a lot of that together. But at our United Way, we actually focus on 4 key impact areas. They're thriving children, community wellness, promoting independence, and basic needs. Okay. And then one of our most noticeable thing that our United Way does is that we operate the Gemma E. Moran United Way Labor Food Center, which is a food bank for New London County. And so we work with over 75 programs, and we distribute, last year we distributed over 2 million pounds of food throughout New London County, which is it's a little over 1.6 million meals. And so we're really proud of that program and it's a program that we provide our community.
Excellent. And so that's something that a program you started in your chapter that not all chapters would have.
Correct. I don't know if there's anybody else that actually physically runs a warehouse, but we do have a 20,000 square foot warehouse that our United Way directly operates. And so it's really, it's exciting work that we're doing, and, it really connects us to our community. So in addition to our 75 programs, we also have mobile food distributions that go out. And again, it's really about getting access. So people having access to food. And a lot of, again, it goes back to equity, this whole thing about equity, and again making sure everybody has equal access to things. You talked about bringing different groups together to the table, and you personally are well qualified for that because you've come up through the nonprofit world of Connecticut. But what drew you to the United Way, and what is your role there now? Sure. So my whole career I've worked with nonprofits. So right out of college, I've been working with a nonprofit. And so I started at United Way about 14 years ago, and I was the vice president of community impact. And about a year and a half ago, I became the president and CEO. And, what draws me to United Way is, one of the things for me, is really about, it's local, right? And again, so I'm born and raised in New London County. And so for me, it's very personal. These are my friends, my neighbors, my coworkers, so for me, it's really about helping a community that has provided me so much in my years And so giving back is really important. And the other thing about United Way that kind of sets us apart is that there's this thing about, like, we don't just focus on one single cause, right? Or one single issue. It's a whole, and again, a lot of times when people are experiencing or struggling, it's more than one issue that is happening. And so for United Way, we're able to address multiple things. So for me, it's really exciting because we can look at the whole community as a whole, and then address those needs accordingly, which is really for me a driver. And so every day for me, this is about my community. I live, I work, and I play here. And so I'm all in.
You're all in on New London
I'm all
County.
in. Yep.
We all know that Black Friday is the day after, Thanksgiving, but after that is one that people might not be as familiar with, which is Giving Tuesday.
Yes.
What is Giving Tuesday?
All right, so agreed. We all know about Black Friday, but then also when we started hearing about Small Business Saturday, and then we heard Cyber Monday. But then in 2012, they came up with hashtag Giving Tuesday as a way to celebrate giving back to the to giving back in communities the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And so it's actually become the biggest giving day of the year, and it's recognized across the globe. And so this year it actually falls on November 29th. And so we're really excited about Giving Tuesday.
Yeah. And how can people participate in that? How do people give if they wanted to?
Yeah, so we go on. We have an online campaign, so you can go to our website. We have all our social media, and a lot of organizations do have a social media platform for Giving Tuesday.
Okay,
and
so it's not just the United Way; it's a lot of charities participate in this Giving Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, it's the biggest giving day of the year. So there's a lot of charities out there. So we'll see a lot of organizations putting out their message on Giving Tuesday. But really, what we ask people, we want them to go to our website, or again through our social media. You can actually click right on there and make a donation. Yeah.
If someone did want to check out your website, what's the address there?
Sure, it's uwsect.org.
I'll put it up on the screen. Boop, right
awesome. There.
Yay. One of United Way's goals is that individuals in New London County can achieve financial stability. What are you hoping for this year, and what have you raised in past years?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for us is really community engagement and getting people to step up, knowing that their families, friends, coworkers, and neighbors are struggling. It's been, it's been very difficult coming out of COVID and then getting hit with inflation, really difficult. But knowing that United Way is here and we're here to help. And so I think for us, getting people just to come out. And again, one of the next, neat things about United Way is that there's this thing called strength in numbers. And even if somebody can only give a little bit, but what we do is we garner donations from many, and it can be thousands of people. We garner from our companies and company campaigns, and then we also have corporate sponsors. And again, you add all those dollars up, and we can really make a difference in our communities. And again, and the other thing for United Way for us is making sure people understand that the work that we do is local. And so when somebody makes a donation to United Way, it stays right in their local community.
You mentioned a little bit of inflation, obviously, is a problem this year. This year's seen record inflation. That means in all likelihood that things are going to be tighter for a lot of people. Do you think that affects the amount that people will be able to give? Well,
I think it will impact that. But again, I want to stress that it's not always how much. Again, it's that strength in numbers. So even just a little bit. And again, if somebody can just donate a little bit, that add that to our pool. Again, we can mobilize resources. But I will say, one of the things during I'll give an example during the pandemic. People were furloughed, they weren't working, or, whatever that looked like. I'll tell you, communities really stepped up. They came out. People that knew people were struggling donated. They said, hey, people need this more than me. And so I think, even though inflation, it's bad, and maybe, a lot of people may not be able to give, there are a lot of people that are still able to do that. And when they know that when people know there's an issue, someone is struggling, they come to the table. And so again, we are so grateful for those individuals. And so, we're hoping that again, this time, knowing what we're kind of facing going into this winter, that people will also come out and help support the community. Because again, even though it's not the pandemic, which we just came out of. We're kind of still
Mm-hmm.
on the edge of that, but we're now facing a new crisis. And so again, this, there's a real struggle there. And so we're really hoping people will come out and help us.
You are listening to the Municipal Voice on WNHH 103.5 FM. You have a mobile food pantry program. How can people find out where it will be?
So the best way to find out about our mobile food pantry is to go onto our website, and we actually have a calendar on our website, and they can see what times they come out. It's always on our social media, and we actually have it on our social media in multiple languages. And it's, we are out in the community. And again, in addition to the mobile food pantries, we also support 75 other programs and initiatives that are emergency food sites as well. And so that's all listed on our website. And, again, to talk about inflation, we think of our food and the work that we're doing with food work is income support for folks. And if somebody can not have to purchase we've all been to the grocery store and know how expensive things are. So if we can kind of offset some of that, people then can use money to put it into the oil and gas and other necessities and basic needs. Yeah.
And just thinking about that, has the inflation also created new challenges for you to get the food to have in the pantry for people?
So, we did experience some supply chain issues, right? Yeah. But a lot of what we rely on is donations from the community. And so once again, I will say here in New London County, we have an amazing community that always steps up. And so when we put the call out and say, hey, we need some food, we need to do a food drive or those things, people always come through. And so, which is absolutely amazing. And it really is, to see that happening, is just absolutely amazing. Again, I'll go back to COVID, we were actually housed at our food center. It was obviously we were essential workers. And I remember just sitting over there, and it just amazed me. People coming in through our front door and just saying, we know that the grocery stores, remember at the time there was like the shelves were empty and all that, all that was going on. People just walking in and saying, here, we know you guys are going to need this to get this out into the community. And it was like that. We've experienced that for over 2 years, and it never slowed down. And so we're forever grateful. But again, it's really the community that rallies to help us support those that are struggling.
Yeah. Here in Connecticut, we're coming into the holiday season. And aside from, helping people out with food needs they might have, it's going to be winter. It's getting cold. So you also have a Comfort from the Cold drive where folks can bring in gloves, mittens, hats, and scarves. But also, as noted, there's an increase of households applying for energy assistance. How can the United Way help folks that are in need of heating assistance and warmth?
Yeah. So we actually, we have a CAP agency here in New London County, TVCCA. And so we always encourage people to go to their nonprofits like TVCCA and sign up for the heating assistance program. That is really the first entry point into getting heating assistance. There is some qualifiers for that program. And so, we do have emergency backup. We have what we call Project Warm Up, which is a heating assistance of last resort. And it's really, geared for people that don't always qualify for a lot of the programs that are out there if they make a certain amount of money. But again, we know with Alice, just because someone's working and making certain income, there's still again, we know 38% of people are struggling just to afford basic needs. And so we are there as well. But we always will, through our resources, obviously, we work with our nonprofit partners who are actually on the ground doing the work. And so making those connections and making people are aware of the resources that are out there is really important. And again, during COVID, we had a new group of people kind of experiencing, they were struggling that have never struggled before, and again, if you've never used services before, you don't always know how to access them. Right. And so we really made it an effort to make sure our community was educated and knew how to access the resources. And so the same premise will go into play for heating is we need to make sure we educate our community so they know where to go for help.
Yeah. And speaking of helping people figure out where to go, towns and cities have grant programs and that people can apply for. Are there any other resources, or do you have some tips for people at home that they can use to help lower costs?
For heating, you mean? Like
Yeah.
specifically for heating? Well, I mean, there's a number. I'm not an energy expert, but I think we, think about just some of the common things that people can do, like, making sure that, when the sun's out, open your curtains so that the
Yeah.
heat comes into your window. And at night, shut your curtains to keep the heat in. We always, there's, making sure that, if you have gaps
Mhm.
in your doors or your windows, to seal them, or, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things that people can do. We actually have information on how to do that. You can also call your, utility company. They always have neat tricks and
Mhm.
tips on how to do those things as well.
And if someone was interested in either donating or getting some scarves, mittens, stuff like that, how do they do that?
So if somebody's interested in donating, we encourage them to go to our website. It's again, uwsbct.org, and hit donate. And there's different ways that you can donate. And if somebody needs help, we always encourage people to call 211, or go on to the CT 211 website to see, what services are available, or they can call us directly if they're in our local area, that we can provide them some resources and information as well.
Very cool. Is there anything that the United Way is working on right now that you want people out there to know about? They may not.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the things, again, one of kind of the unique features of United Way is that we're adaptable, and we meet the needs in our community as they come at us. And and again, we can change. And I think we really proved that during COVID, and making sure, stepping up when there was a crisis. And again, because we have so many different things that we're involved in, we could kind of pivot and address those needs. And then the other thing too, I want to, let people, I know I kind of touched on some of our systemic change work, but, I think, when I think about, where are we going to be in, 10, 20, 30 years, although I don't have a magic, 8 ball to kind of look at that, we're working on initiatives right now that we won't be seeing results until 10 or 20 years from now. Yeah. And so again, we're looking at, workforce development. We're looking at, making sure that, our youth are prepared for jobs that actually give them livable wages. And, even if they don't go off to college or military, they have no plan after high school, they have something, they can get a job that has that livable wage. We're looking at healthcare and making sure people have access to those things. And again, systems change doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. And so really making sure, knowing that, even though we'd love to just, again, wave the magic wand and fix it immediately, it's more than that. And so, but United Way is here. We're not giving up. We're continuing to see, how we can best address those needs. And so making sure our communities really thrive.
Yeah, speaking of the United Way being there, I know it's been around for 60 years at this point, since it was founded. And we always kind of like to end on a positive note and look towards the future. So when are you feeling positive about the future? And what do you see 60 years in the future for the United Way? Will we still need it?
Yeah, I'd love to say that, in 60 years that all our problems would go away and, we wouldn't need nonprofits or social services. I'm not that optimistic. Hopefully we can, work on some of, address some of them. Again, it takes time to change systems, right? And so again, we're here. And again, for the community, when I think about that, we are local. And so again, we're adaptable and we're local and we're here to address those needs as they arise in our communities. And so I think for me, when I think about, 60 years from now, I'd like to think that we're still being adaptable and meeting the needs of the community. Because at the end of the day, this is what it's about. This is why we're all doing the work, is we are here to help our community and see them thrive and achieve their fullest potential, So for us, that's where I'd like to see in 60 years, that we're continuing to do that and helping our community.
Yeah, the mission will continue even if maybe you're in flying cars in 60 years.
It's almost there. Yeah.
Almost. Well, Dina, thank you so much for speaking with us today and for doing all the work that you do.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak and talk about United Way. And I just on a final note, I don't know if I answered the question. There are United Ways across all of Connecticut and across the globe. There's actually 1,100 United Ways across the globe. Here locally, there's 15 of us. And so, if not in New London County, there is a United Way in your
we're
local
on the air
community.
All over Connecticut. So there's others in Connecticut, and people can look up their local United Way and find something to help or donate and do.
Yes, absolutely. So I just want to put a plug in for my fellow United Ways throughout the state.
Definitely. We'd like to thank our guest, Dina Sears-Graves. We'd like to thank our sponsors at Gateway Community College and Housatonic Community College. Learn more at gatewayct.edu and housatonic.edu. The Municipal Voice is a co-production by CCM and WNHH 103.5 FM. Kevin Maloney is our executive producer, Christopher Gilson is our producer, Harry Draws on the boards, and I'm Matt Ford, your host. Be sure to check out our Facebook page and give us a like, and watch out for our CCM chat series on our YouTube page.